Good morning, class. Today we're going to work on factoring difference of squares. This is the formula that you need to write down so that you know how to factor difference of squares or difference of two squares. It's a little bit different than how we find the greatest common factor, but it's not that difficult. The best way how to explain it is just by showing some examples. So the first thing you need to make sure that it is a difference. It is a minus. If it was a plus sign, then you would not be able to do a sum of squares. That's the main word, difference, meaning subtract. So let's look at an example. We have x squared minus 4. We can see that x is squared, and we do know that 4 is a perfect square. If we were to take the square root of x squared and take the square root of 4, we would get x, keeping the same sign, and 2. Put that in parentheses. Right up here we have a plus b, a minus b. That is the square root of the first number and the square root of the second number. So we took the square root of the first number, then we took the square root of the second number, and then we're just going to rewrite it, but have it say plus. And that is it. You take the square root of the first number, the square root of the second number, keep the minus sign for the first term, right here. Then we just rewrite it, but with the plus sign. Like yesterday, when we would factor by grouping, order does not matter, because you see right here that this is multiplication, so order does not matter. I could rewrite this as x plus 2 times x minus 2, and both answers are correct. Let's look at another example. Right here I have the x squared minus 16. Factoring by difference of squares, I have to make sure that I do in fact have a minus sign. But now I need to see if I can take a square root of the first and second term. I know the square root of x is x. Keep my minus sign. The square root of 16 is 4. Put parentheses around that, and then I just rewrite it with a plus sign. Okay, easy enough. How about right here? X squared minus 16. I can take the square root of x squared and the square root of 16. It is a difference of squares because it does have a minus sign. The square root of x squared is x. Sorry, getting a little ahead of myself. Square root of x squared is x. Keep my minus sign. The square root of 64 is 8. And then I rewrite it with a plus sign. There is a way to check our work. Right here we're factoring. And like I told you on Monday, the opposite of factoring is distribute. So if we were going to distribute these two binomials right here, I would FOIL, like we have learned earlier in our math career, like in Algebra 1, even in geometry. You would multiply the first two terms together. So x times x is x squared. So FOIL tells me first outside inside and last. So I did my first term by x and x and got x squared. Then I want x times 8 and got 8x. Then negative 8 times x and got negative 8x. And negative 8 times positive 8 and got negative 64. Don't know what that dot is there. Now, if I were to combine like terms, the only thing I have in common are my x's, and I know 8 minus 8 cancels out, and I'm left with x squared minus 64. So that's an easy way how to check my work, is after I found what were the square root of the first and second term, if I were to distribute it back through, or FOIL, then I should get the original problem. Let's go on. Right here it's a little bit different, because now I have a coefficient in front of my variable. Still, 4 is a perfect square. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of x squared is x. Keep my minus sign. And the square root of 9 is 3. Now I would just rewrite it as the same thing, but with a plus sign. And that's my answer. Let's go to another one. Here I have 25x squared plus 81. This is not a difference of squares because I have a plus sign. So you might have one or two on your homework that look like this. And you may take the square root of the first term and square root of the second term. And when you write down 5x and then you have a plus 9, right here, it should be coming off in your head that, hey, this isn't going to work because it's a plus sign and not a minus sign, meaning difference of squares. So this one cannot be factored by difference of squares. Okay, let's look at this one. I do have a difference because I have a minus sign between my two terms, so I do have a difference of squares. But if you look at 3, 3 is not a perfect square. I can't take the square root of 3 and get a whole number. So now I'm going to have to see if I can factor out anything from either term. So I see that 3 and 27 are both factorable by 3. So I'm going to factor out a greatest common factor of 3 between the two terms. So that gives me 3 times 3 divided by 3 is 1, and I'm left with x squared. Keep my sign. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Now, ignoring the 3 on the outside, I have a difference of squares on the inside. I can take the square root of x squared and the square root of 9 and factor by difference of squares, keeping my 3 also on the outside. So I will rewrite my 3, open my parentheses, the square root of x squared is x, keep my minus sign, the square root of 9 is 3, close my parentheses, and then I just rewrite the same binomial but with a plus sign. Just like that. Next example, I have 20 x squared minus 45. Again, just like last example, 20 is not a perfect square. I do have a minus sign, so I have a chance of this being a difference of squares. So I need to take out a term or a number that will come out of both terms that is perfect, a perfect square. I can't take 20 from either one because 45 is not divisible by 20. But I can take 5 from both. So I'm going to factor out a greatest common factor of 5. So I go 5 parentheses. 20 divided by 5 is 4. And I have my x squared left over. Keeping my minus sign and 9. Just like the problem earlier, I have 4x squared minus 9 in the parentheses, and I can see that both of them are perfect squares, and I have a minus sign. So let's take the square root of the first term, square root of the last term. Don't forget about the 5 in front. So that gives me 5 times the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of x squared is x. Keep my sign. Square root of 9 is 3. Close my parentheses. And then rewrite the binomial with a plus sign. And that is how you do factoring by difference of squares or difference of two squares.